You know how on YouTube, when you watch something, and then they keep on suggesting similar videos that you might like? Well, I don't know what I watched, but I kept finding on my feed these videos about women who were unalived by their boyfriends, partners, husbands. And I'm not going to lie, but after a while, they began to weigh on me and to frustrate me a little bit too. Because the story seems to be always the same. Women who are doing well for themselves, they get their education, they work hard, they make their money, they set up business, they're doing well, making themselves and their family proud. But they always seem to go for and choose and marry the kind of man who isn't doing so well. He's either in and out of jail, or he lacks ambition. And I'm looking and I'm watching these videos and I'm seeing these red flags just waving in the wind. And I want to scream at these women, don't do it. Don't stay with these men. Don't choose these men. And unfortunately, they never listen to me. And while I'm not going to blame the victims, we're not going to do that. It's clear that these women choose to ignore the red flags, or they just didn't realize in what a dangerous situation they were in. Now, I remember when I was younger, I used to think that it was only a certain kind of woman that used to be abused. And I remember thinking to myself, why doesn't she just leave? Why don't these women just leave? Why do they stay in these abusive relationships? But you know what? With age comes wisdom. Now I know that anyone can find themselves in an abusive relationship. Abuse doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter your age, your gender, your background, your sexual orientation. It doesn't matter any of that. Plus, leaving isn't as simple as it sounds. On the contrary, sometimes it can be downright dangerous. An abuser can be charming, and that charm can be really disorientating. Sometimes the abuser can even be a woman. Abuse can take many forms: physical, emotional, sexual, financial, psychological. And those psychological scars, they can run really deep and take a long time to heal. I had a friend who was being abused, and it's not like in the movies where the bad guys are obviously the bad guys. Sometimes abuse can be so subtle that someone doesn't even realize, doesn't know, has no clue that they are in an abusive relationship. Just like my friend. At one point, I think it suddenly dawned on her that something was off, that something wasn't quite right. And she actually asked me, she said, "Is this man abusing me?" And all I could say was yes. It's subtle, like a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble. They want to reshape you, and they want to have all the power while taking away yours. If your partner shouts at you occasionally, that's not necessarily abuse. But if it becomes the norm, if you tell him about it and tell him that you don't like it, and he continues to do it, and he continues to do it, making sure that he's tearing down your self-esteem, if it becomes consistent, then that could be abuse. Now let's talk about warning signs of abuse. So that I don't make a video that lasts hours and hours, you're not going to sit down and watch all of that. So I have chosen 10 warning signs of abuse. Before we get started, let me just say this. This video is an informative video only. It's not for self-diagnosis. If any of the things we discuss in this video resonate with you and makes you feel that you are in an abusive relationship, please reach out to a professional. You deserve to be happy. You know that, right? So if you think you're in an abusive relationship, if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, if you're just interested in this topic and you want to know more, whatever the reason, I'm really glad that you're here. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it, shall we? He's nice and incredibly charming to everyone. Everybody loves him. But at home, things are completely different. You know the story of Jekyll and Hyde, right? It's all about manipulating reality. When your partner is wonderful to everyone else, it makes you question yourself. Is it me? Am I crazy? Am I overreacting? That kind of thinking plants a seed of doubt and makes it so much harder to reach out for help. They've crafted this perfect public image, but you're the only one that sees the cracks beneath. Then you begin to blame yourself, convinced that it must be your fault for why he treats you this way. You might even find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, for things that aren't even your fault, trying to keep the peace and to avoid conflict. But here's the thing. Your feelings are valid, and you absolutely have the right to seek help and support. Abusers want you to depend on them completely. They aim to be your only source of emotional support, financial stability, and validation. Remember, it's all about control. They want to dictate your entire world. Sometimes they might resort to threats or guilt trips to keep you feeling trapped. Even lying about your loved ones and telling you that they don't love you as much as you think they do. Nah, they don't love you. At least not as much as he does. And of course, what happens then? It just leads to more isolation because you fear, you're worried that they might recognize, they might realize what's happening, what's going on. You feel embarrassed, you're ashamed, and you don't want to answer any awkward questions. So you know what? It just seems easier to avoid them altogether. And consequently, you remain stuck in this cycle, hopeless and feeling powerless to change anything. But remember, reaching out for help is a sign of strength. And if you keep strong, you'll find your way through. You start to feel this overwhelming sensation like you're walking on eggshells, living in a constant state of fear and panic, and you are aware of everything. It's like you're always on alert, anticipating the next outburst or at least trying to prevent it. That kind of stress takes a serious toll on you. It's extremely draining, both physically and mentally, because you never know what version of him you're going to get. Will he be sweet and charming, or will he snap at the slightest thing? Now, because of this uncertainty, you try to change your behavior, constantly trying to adjust how you act and in the things that you say. Because you don't want to get him angry. You don't want him lashing out on you. So you will do anything to avoid his anger and his disappointment. You might find yourself second guessing your words or tiptoeing around certain arguments. You know, the kind of things that you know might set him off. It is exhausting to feel like you have to walk on eggshells all the time. And it can leave you feeling lost and anxious. But remember, no matter what, and regardless what you're going through, I know it's difficult, I know it might feel impossible, but it's important that you try and prioritize your well-being, because a better day is coming where hopefully you will feel safe and secure. You wake up in the morning and instead of feeling refreshed, you feel drained and you have no energy whatsoever. Even the smallest tasks takes way too much effort and you can't do it. You just can't do it. When you're living with that kind of stress 24/7, your body is constantly in fight or flight mode, which again, it's exhausting. Did you know that this kind of chronic stress can actually rewire your brain, making it harder to focus or find joy in things that you used to love? Crazy, isn't it? It's heartbreaking to think that things that you used to enjoy doing, you don't enjoy them anymore. They don't excite you. They're underwhelming and you're just not interested. And another crazy thing is something that we don't think about. We don't think about the fact that stress can affect other parts of us. Because when you're under that kind of stress, you might start experiencing physical symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, or digestive problems. It's just crazy how these emotional struggles can affect us physically and impact our overall well-being. So like I said before, that's why it's important that we remember that abuse isn't just about the physical aspect. The scars can run deep and take forever to heal. You find yourself crying for no reason whatsoever. And it's crazy because if someone was to ask you, what's the matter? You wouldn't know what to say because there's no specific reason. There's nothing that you can actually put your finger on for why you are in tears. You are carrying this heavy burden that is just so overwhelming. And it seems that there's no way, no healthy way, no healthy route for all these feelings to go. There's no outlet for all of these feelings. And because you're feeling so isolated, as we mentioned before, you have no one to talk to, no one to share your struggles with and your issues with, which makes it even harder to process what you're actually going through. It feels like you've been silenced, trapped in a whirlwind of feelings that you don't understand and that you can't express. So of course you feel hopeless and powerless. You feel like you're stuck in a cycle of sadness, and there's no way out. And that's the real reason why you cry. But you know what? It's okay for you to feel this way. Of course you're going to feel this way because you deserve to be heard and you deserve to be supported. You find yourself lying about what's going on in your life because you have this overwhelming sense of shame and judgment. It's tough, right? Victims of abuse often worry that people don't understand them or people won't believe them. Can you imagine going through all of that and someone not believing you and not believing your pain? And of course, there's always that fear of what the abuser would do if he found out that you were telling all his business to everybody, to your friends and to your family. You don't want to go through all of that and you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. So you know what? You'd rather just keep what's going on to yourself or lie about it if need be. Now, of course, victims might also lie to themselves because it's a way of coping. It's easier to convince yourself that, you know what, things really aren't that bad. It's better to think like that, to feel like that, than to actually bring on board and to feel and to understand and to accept what's really going on. It's painful. So by lying, the victim tries to protect themselves from the outside world and from their own inner turmoil. Remember though, that acknowledging your feelings is the first step towards healing. And there are people out there that love you and want to help you and will help you if you give them a chance to do so. Victims of abuse often feel like they have completely lost themselves in the relationship. It is easier to conform to the abuser's expectations. So you suppress your own needs, you suppress your feelings, or because you want to avoid confrontation. You might find yourself molded into something that you're not, which can be really damaging for your self-esteem, for your mental health, and for your overall well-being. It's like you're wearing a mask all the time. And guess what? After a while, that mask becomes you. It becomes your identity. Once that sense of self has completely gone, it could take a lot to reclaim it back. Now, the journey to rediscovering yourself can be long and challenging, filled with so many ups and downs. But remember, it's absolutely possible to heal and to rebuild your life. Oh, you used to be active on social media? You used to enjoy reading and seeing what your friends and what your families did and what they got up to? Oh, it was one of your pleasures. You used to enjoy showing your achievements and you used to enjoy connecting with your friends and your family. You used to be fun when you were online and you were engaging too. You had tons of personality and lots of interest. However, now you've disappeared from all social media. Those lively and fun updates that used to fill your feed have now been replaced with silence because you don't feel that you have anything positive or interesting to post anymore. This withdrawal, it's not just a simple choice. It's actually a reflection of the toll that this abusive relationship is taking on you. The joy of posting has been overshadowed by the fear of judgment and shame. So as a result, you scroll through other people's posts, feeling more and more isolated. Each notification from friends serves as a reminder of what you're missing. So instead of reaching out for help, you retreat further and further inside yourself. This disconnection from social media can deepen your sense of loneliness and make it even harder for you to reach out and seek help. It's important to recognize that this isolation is a common experience for those in an abusive relationship. You find it increasingly difficult to leave the house, or once what was a safe space for you has now become your prison. But over time, these feelings have intensified, making even simple outings feel so overwhelming. As your anxiety grows, you find yourself retreating more and more into the very place which causes you so much stress and so much anxiety, the very place that makes you so miserable. The self-imposed confinement can be a coping mechanism. You tell yourself that, you know what? Staying home isn't that bad. It's all right. It's better than facing the world. It's better than going out there. It's better than whatever it is that's outside. However, this isolation only deepens your sense of despair and entrapment. You had a relatively good day today, feeling accomplished and even enjoying some light-hearted fun with your colleagues. However, as you get home and as soon as you turn down your street, a wave of anxiety washes over you and you can hardly breathe. It feels like a dark cloud is sitting on your shoulder, and those positive feelings that you felt earlier, completely gone. The closer you get to home, the heavier the feeling. As you're parked outside your house and you sit there in your car because you don't want to go inside, you don't want to face confrontation, you don't want to hear his outbursts, you don't want to hear him criticize you and tear you down. You don't want any of that. The home that you tried to build is no longer a safe place. The fact that you don't want to go inside, this reluctance is telling. It just highlights just how much your home life is affecting your mental well-being. We all have a part to play when it comes to addressing abuse. If you believe that a friend is in an abusive relationship, don't ignore the red flags. I know it can be tricky because we don't want to overstep. We don't want to butt in and we don't want to put our nose in places where it doesn't belong. But it's important that we share our concerns in a caring and in a gentle and in a non-judgmental way. Don't pressure them to leave. That's their decision to make. Just knowing that they have someone in their corner, it can make a huge difference. You could be their lifeline. So if this video resonates with you, if you feel that you are in an abusive relationship, just know that you are not alone. You might feel that you are, but you're not. There are resources out there. There are people that can help you. There are people that want to help you. Maybe a good first step is talking to someone who you trust, a friend, a family member, a pastor, a therapist. Even a tiny step towards safety can be a huge difference. You deserve happiness and you deserve support. I wish you all well, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. But until then, be kind to yourself and to others. Take care. Bye for now. Ciao.